You're listening to the Ecosystem Approach Show. I'm Jason.
And I'm Patricia. Tune in every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Transformation Talk Radio.
We discovered that human potential is severely limited when you program humans like a machine, which is standard practice today for self-improvement.
The ecosystem approach teaches you how to uncover your infinite potential by using natural methods that are truly revolutionary. Join us now for the Ecosystem Approach Show. Hey parents, it's time for back to school. What does a parent do when the threats of school shootings are everywhere? Is there an energy connection that explains which people are targeted in a mass shooting and who becomes victims? Well, that's a really good question. Mm-hmm. Does COVID target certain children? Those are some big issues, but we'll also talk about how real learning happens. Even if you don't have children, this will be a fascinating show. We are married intuitives with over 20 years experience who created the ecosystem approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Okay, Jason, is there an energy reason that some people die and are wounded in mass shootings and some escape?
Yes.
Okay.
The problem with answering a question like that, people think and perceive in a black and white way.
Right.
So we're going to give you an outline of how it works.
Okay.
But there's always different situations that affect the outcome.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can just suspend the black and white thinking for a minute.
Okay.
And to start out with that, it may seem a little ghoulish, but the Uvalde shooting in Texas, if you're a parent, you've got to have this on your mind. This has always got to be in the back of your mind.
Because we know that it can happen anywhere.
Right.
Okay.
And, parents are thinking, well, what should I say to my kids? What if they bring it up? What should I say? Blah, blah, blah. And we're going to take a very different approach today. And this is great. Even if you don't have any children, it's going to be very, very interesting. So, okay, how do you get targeted in a mass shooting? Well, if you go back to our show that we did last week about health.
Yes.
And if you remember the graphics that we did with the upside down triangle, if you've got all this negative energy in your essence, the triangle's upside down. So the ego and the physical body is on top. Okay. And the information from the essence doesn't come forward. So
because it's blocked.
It's blocked
by negative energy.
Because it's supposed to flow down from the essence, flow down to the ego and to the physical body, but it doesn't. And so what does negative energy have to do with being targeted in a mass shooting? Yeah. Well, there's an energetic component. Now, here's where the black and white thinking is difficult. There are people, when there's a mass shooting and certain people die and certain people don't. Mm-hmm. If someone's spraying a machine gun, in a way that's kind of random, or you would think that it is, whether you get hit or not is completely random. That's not what we see. No. And this idea that there has to be some sort of agreement with your essence before you check out, before you leave, is sort of a difficult concept to understand. But once you start working from your essence using the ecosystem approach, which is what we talk about every single week, correct, all of a sudden your essence is activated in a way that it protects you energetically. So if you're in a situation like that, the chances are much better. You'll do better.
Well, and can I just jump in and say that what happens is that your essence gives you the opportunity to have clarity about not only who you are, of course, not only who your child is, and we're going to talk a lot more about that, but also it gives you clarity about what to do in situations like that innately.
Right. So it's what people call instinctive. They
Instinctive.
just
Yes.
respond in ways because your essence is in charge in those situations,
Right.
not your physical body, not your ego, that sort of thing.
Correct.
But here's the most important point that is really seems way out there, but for us, it's not. If you have a connection to your life purpose, even if you're 4, 5, 6 years old, and we're going to talk about how that works in just a minute.
Yes.
If you have a connection with your life purpose, there's something that starts to enable your essence that says, oh my gosh, I have to help myself implement that life purpose.
That's correct.
And if you've ever heard us talk about the 80%, where we see that people, when they come into this world, they have 80% of their essences compromised or blocked with negative energy.
Right.
As a general rule these days, because there's such a buildup of negative energy. And as you start to remove that negative energy, that starts to activate your essence. And your essence holds your life purpose.
Yes.
So can children have purpose?
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes.
And as you start removing negative energy from your essence, you could talk to a child 3, 4 years old and just start talking about, well, so what's your life purpose? And, not about what you're going to be when you grow up.
Right.
Because life purpose and occupation are not the same.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
People
sometimes
confuse
they
it.
can be.
They can. Well,
but
your occupation is the vehicle with which you apply your life purpose.
That's correct.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be exact. And a lot of people have certain life purposes that have nothing to do with their occupation, but they're
Correct.
still implementing their life purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So how can children basically have a sense of their life purpose? By starting to remove negative energy from their essence.
Yes.
By applying the ecosystem approach from birth.
Yes.
I have a couple clients that I've been working with for a long time. They get pregnant. We start clearing the fetus.
Mm-hmm.
We start clearing that little soul that's in there already, and we start talking to it.
Right.
So life purpose, when you have that triangle upside down, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to that to last week's show.
Yes.
It's fascinating.
It's
groundbreaking.
Well, and I'm just going to jump in and say, and I'm going to go to the end. We also were doing the second half of that show will be aired next Monday.
Exactly.
Yes.
So my point is that when the triangle is upside down, chances are your life purpose comes from ego.
Yeah. Not
from your essence. And it gets all screwed up. So, and that happens usually later in life, not when a child is young. So what is life purpose?
Okay.
I'm going to give you we did this a while back and people loved it. And it's just very simple. It may not be all inclusive. It's pretty
I think it's
broad.
Yes, it is.
And it's very general. And it's just like 1 or 2 words that describe your life purpose. That's all you need. People think that they have to write a mission statement or all that. That's not what we're talking about in terms of life purpose.
Exactly.
But healer, a lot of people are natural healers.
Mm-hmm.
Being a warrior or an advocate. Yeah. Today you don't really have to be a warrior, but an advocate is sort of like a warrior. And you can do that with any job that you're doing. So Correct. There's a whole list here, but let me go through it. And by the way, if you want this list, I'm going to put it in this week's newsletter. And if you're not signed up for our free section,
there you go.
Go to our website right now, theecosystemapproach.org, and sign up for that free section. Mm-hmm. We send you a newsletter once a week, but we don't spam you. We don't give you all sorts of emails. So here it goes. Warrior advocate, healer, entertainer, musician, artist, or someone that creates good energy. That's all one. Mm-hmm. People that just are born, their purpose is to create good energy in the world.
Excuse me.
A farmer, producer, creating substance, yes. Growing things, producing things, creating things of value for other people.
Yes. Themselves and other people.
Yes. Uncovering secrets and being a truth teller. I gravitated toward that in the Army, being in military intelligence. I love uncovering the secrets.
Yes.
Being a parent, raising children. That's a purpose. There's a very important purpose.
Absolutely.
Being a judge, arbitrator, mm-hmm. Deciding which way we should go in a situation.
Correct.
Being an engineer, builder,
right.
An inventor or creative. That covers a broad area.
Yes.
Intuitive, psychologist, spiritual leader. That's a biggie. enterpriser, business person, organizer,
Mhm.
getting people together to produce something.
Yes.
A baker, cook,
Mm,
creating food.
yeah.
It's being an explorer or a scientist, and being a caretaker, nurturer, and
Mm,
then there's earth, climate, repair, healing, ecology. When you
correct.
want to be a healer, but you want to heal it for the
For the earth.
physical
Well,
physical
now,
realm. Yes,
and also for the earth itself.
yes.
It's huge. And by the way, if you are that caretaker and nurturer, and you're thinking to yourself right now, well, oh, I wouldn't mind helping the earth. That's fantastic. But let me just say, but make sure this is authentically what you want. And when I say make sure, by using the ecosystem
By
approach,
removing that negative
there
energy
you
from
go,
your
right there.
essence, you start to
Absolutely.
just know. You
Yes, you
just
do.
know.
Yes, you
And
do.
and children can just know too,
Yes.
and you can play with them, and you can start to see, oh, you can ask them, oh, well, you were healing that. Is that part of who you are?
Right.
So here's the other thing, and I just want to make this comment, okay? So whether it's a mass shooting, whether it's COVID in school,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's some sort of freak accident,
Correct.
if that child has a sense of their purpose and what they're here to do, that's going to keep them safe in ways that you never can,
Right.
just by trying to micromanage their life as a
Correct.
parent.
Correct.
It's a big deal.
Yes, absolutely. So, Jason, are we ready for the key
Yes.
points? Jason, what are the key points of this segment?
Life purpose is an important protection against freak accidents and mass shootings for everyone. Life purpose is not your occupation. It comes from essence and is general. You choose how to apply it. Young children are usually more connected to their essence naturally and have a strong intuitive insights. It's adults that program those
It
things
out
out
of
of them.
them.
Yes.
Yes.
The ecosystem approach helps children and parents uncover purpose that is authentic and powerful in life.
I love it. In the next segment, we're going to talk about how to work with the energy of children so they can know purpose, avoid negative energies like COVID, and grow up strong in a different world. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia. And in this segment, we're going to talk about how to work with the energy of children so they can know purpose and avoid negative energies like COVID and grow up strong in a different world. In other words, in a difficult world. My apologies. We are married intuitives with over 20 years experience, and I'll learn to read sooner or later. Who created the ecosystem approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Jason, this is the strangest back to school show I've ever heard about. I'll admit that. How do you work with the energies of children so they can avoid negative energies and grow up strong and still do their purpose?
That's what's so exciting about the ecosystem approach. Let's start with some examples that seemingly aren't connected at all.
Okay.
But COVID and school bullies.
Okay.
So what's the connection? Well, both COVID and school bullies are attracted to negative energy in your child. And so when your child
Kind
comes
of
in,
interesting.
it's funny because we've been seeing a lot of St. Jude commercials
Commercials, yes.
lately about childhood cancers, and it's heartbreaking. My daughter, when she was 14, was diagnosed with cancer. It's heartbreaking. It's one of the most difficult things for a parent to deal with.
Yes.
But if I knew back then what I know now, it would have been much different. But the truth is that if a child comes in and has a childhood disease, for example, it's negative energy. If they get COVID and it becomes serious, it's negative energy. If they attract bullies, that was me. I attracted bullies. I'll talk about that in a minute. It was negative energy. And so what is that negative energy? Well, it depends on the child's story, and you need to uncover that from birth. That's the
Mhm.
best thing you can do, and the way you learn how to do that is uncover it for yourself first.
Mm.
Once you uncover your story, then you'll understand how to uncover their story.
Well, and here's something that isn't in the content today, but the bottom line is that our story as parents, both Jason and I have children, and but we know now that our story has actually affected our children
In a major way.
in a major way, and yet we don't really. Most people, they don't connect the two, but it's there. It is one of the most difficult things, especially when you see your child do some of the things that you did,
Well,
or
yes.
affected by some of those things.
And the truth is, what we see is that as we clear our emotional story,
Oh,
it affects them.
thank you.
Even then,
Yes.
as adults, it has a big effect. So let's go back to the COVID.
Okay.
You've all heard about the secret where like attracts like
Correct.
energy attracts like energy.
Mhm.
But there's one big, huge fallacy in the secret,
Okay.
which is you can't program yourself to have feelings. You can't
Oh.
you can't tell yourself
Or not to have feelings.
or not to have feelings. They
Right.
they are. And what you have to do is see what's there already
Mhm.
and remove them, which is, of course, the way the ecosystem approach is designed.
Exactly.
You don't try and manage your ecosystem by determining it should be a desert ecosystem when it's a jungle ecosystem. You say, what is it? And then you
Right.
make it the best ecosystem that you
Well,
can be.
I know that programming does things like, well, you just don't think that way. You don't have to feel that. Just let that go.
So many
That's
parents,
programming.
yes, so many parents say, well, don't be afraid. Don't feel bad.
Yes.
Or in the case of the bully, oh, just ignore them, or stand up to them, or um, um, challenge them to a duel, whatever, to male, female. There's a big
Correct.
difference, but none of those really affects the energy. So if you look at the energy first,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, and hopefully you don't do it when it comes up, like when a child gets COVID or when they're being attacked by a bully or
Right.
bullied at
You
school.
start before
You
then.
start before then.
And
So those negative energies that attract those things.
Right.
Now, when we were just talking about this, and I never really told you the story, but when I was in school, I attracted bullies, and I know why now, because in
Okay.
my story there was a lot of shame, and I was my mother programmed me to be quote unquote a good boy, which of course, and Patricia will tell you, I am not a good boy. It's just not innately, it doesn't just, it's really not me. It's not authentic to me at all. But I was that kid in school that, listened to the teacher and did my homework and arrived on time. And that would make me a huge target for bullies.
Yes.
And I remember this this guy who was totally the toughest guy in school. This was in middle school.
Okay.
And he was just he kept
He was mean, is what you're
he
trying
was
to
mean,
say.
but he would target me and he would jab me physically, and he'd say something to me, and as we would pass in the hall, he'd just make my life miserable. One day I just had it, and I literally beat him up. And of course, it he was probably the toughest guy in school, and I beat him up. And I'm not a small guy, but I have, my authentic part is more aggressive than my my veneer that I was programmed to have.
And you're right. Your aggressive part is actually a warrior.
Well, yes.
I just wanted to point
Yes,
that out.
yes,
You
it's
are
part of my
it is.
purpose.
That is
But
exactly
I,
right.
being the mild-mannered 6, my Enneagram 6 was
Right.
never really me. But if I would have changed the energy, I wouldn't have been targeted in the first place.
Exactly.
That's the point for all of this.
Exactly. But when you don't know that your story, and by the way, shame is not the one that comes right up and gets in your face and says, you're ashamed of this and you're ashamed of that. What happens is something similar to this. Ooh, I'm not going to do that. That scares me. Or, ooh, that makes me uncomfortable. So I'm going to avoid that person or that situation. By the way, that's fear. And with the ecosystem approach, this is energies that can be removed. as opposed to you hold on to them, you hide them, you walk, a mile around somebody, things that are a waste of time, things that are basically telling you you have no value.
Yes.
And that doesn't work,
Yes.
because
Exactly.
what happens is, and this is the whole point of the show, you miss what your purpose is.
And if you start first, if you have self-knowledge for yourself
Correct.
first, it always has to help start with yourself.
Correct.
And then you start to understand
Mhm.
self-knowledge for your child, and you can
Yes.
learn how to start to bring that out. And if you're listening to this and your children are already adolescents, it's not hopeless, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
And the best way to do it with adolescents is to model it. So figure out who you are first for yourself,
Correct.
and then start showing your adolescent kids that you're going to start clearing your emotions, as opposed to say, do as I say and not as I do.
Correct.
Type stuff.
Correct.
So we're talking about from mass shootings to COVID to freak accidents. But
Mhm.
now we're going to talk about learning, which was the whole point of the show.
Okay.
But they all are blocked by negative energy. They all have a bad connection with negative energy.
Correct.
that is part of your emotional story.
Yes.
So how does real learning really happen? Well, once you start removing that negative energy from your essence, OMG, your ability to learn as a child or as an adult is just it explodes.
And I would say it becomes phenomenal. And I just have a very small story. My mother was an artist. She was an amazing artist. But when I would try and emulate her, she would basically say things to me like, well, that's okay, but you're never going to be the artist that I am. Well, she was speaking the truth. I wasn't supposed to be the artist that she was. I'm supposed to be my own artist. And when I figured that out through using the ecosystem approach, I have to tell you, talk about OMG and exploding with creativity. It's quite interesting. We'll say it that way.
And that's a really good story. There's all sorts of stories that you can probably think of in your own life. But so how does learning really happen? When it's removing stress, and the ultimate stress is when your essence is blocked.
Yes.
People think, well, if I do this and I'm stressed, then if I stop doing this, I remove the stress. No, the ultimate stress is when you're blocked from knowing who you are at your level of your essence.
Correct.
So, and when you get there, you also, your essence already knows what your life purpose is.
Yes.
So you won't have to figure it out. It'll just know.
Yes.
Stress emotions are those that distract us from learning. The best definition of stress is when you are
being disconnected
from essence.
Yes.
That 80% that we talk about, and we talk about that on our website, and you can go there, you can get the list of the purposes with Wednesday's newsletter. Theecosystemapproach.org. Go ahead and sign up for it right now. But often that 80% creates feelings of shame and unworthiness that blocks learning.
Yes.
Learning disabilities are always negative energy. They're
Correct.
energies at the source. ADD, ADHD, all the different alphabet is all from negative energy.
Well said.
Fears, worries, anxieties, frenzy all come from our emotional story, and blocks to learning always come from your unique emotional story. And they're never generic blocks like, oh, just do this for ADD or do this for, no, it's, you look at who you are authentically.
I want you to just talk about one more thing before we go to the key points, Jason. Having a sense of one's own purpose supercharges the ability for people to learn of what? All ages.
So it's basically two things. If you remove the negative energy from your essence, your essence wants to learn.
Yes.
But if you know your purpose, it helps you coordinate everything in your life so that learning happens in alignment with your life purpose. It's so neat. And so whether you're 6 years old or 66,
there you go.
It doesn't matter. And we find that a lot of our contemporaries that are older, they stop learning because it's too much work.
Yes. So, Jason, what are the key points?
Negative energy in a child's emotional story attracts like COVID, bullies, learning disabilities, anything that has negative energy. have a strong child by helping them uncover their emotional story and remove the negative energies from childhood. Oh my gosh, that's the
Yes.
way to do it. A sense of life purpose supercharges learning at any age or circumstance, and the ecosystem approach is designed to help you remove the blocks from learning and knowing life purpose.
Love it. In the next segment, we're going to talk about the parent-child relationship and how to teach your child to uncover their life purpose. That's kind of a big deal. And deal with life in an appropriate way. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia. And in this segment, we're going to talk about the parent-child relationship and how to teach your children to uncover their life purpose and deal with life in an appropriate way. We are married intuitives with over 20 years experience who created the Ecosystem Approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Okay, Jason, what about the parent-child relationship? Isn't love enough?
No, and that's a common misconception.
Okay.
First of all, we don't have a standard definition of what love is. And that's part of the problem too.
We kind of all assume we know what it is.
Yes, we
Okay.
kind of all assume. Sometimes it's possessive, sometimes it's
Oh, yeah.
Needy, sometimes it's you take care of me. There's all sorts of
Yeah.
hidden things in love. But so if we put that aside, the first thing of being a good parent is establishing your authority and then modeling values. That's not telling your child or programming them their values, but you have to be a good model for it, and they'll because they're watching you. They're gonna pick that up.
Definitely, they're watching you.
But most people take it too far and then start programming their children about how they imagine or how they want them to be.
How they want their children to be.
Exactly. One of my favorite songs is it was a Carly Simon song. We were just talking about it.
Yes.
It's
was supposed to be about Cat Stevens.
Yeah, right? And it was this is now how I expected it to be,
Right.
And basically the guy wanted to be a musician, and his mother wanted him to be someone
an attorney or
doctor, that sort of thing.
That kind of thing.
And it it's just a very sad song, of course, but it's when you try and program your children into something that they're not.
Right.
It's much better to say, okay, who is this? So let's go back to the first thing. Establishing authority. That sounds very harsh. It's not at all. When I tell my dog to sit, it will sit.
Right. It took a little bit of training, but not a lot.
And it responds to me. Both of our dogs. Now, our other dog, he'll sit when he's good and ready. But he'll sit. It's just different personalities, and we account for that, and we allow that.
Yes.
But this is a really strange concept. People don't even think of it this way. But the most important part of parenting is to know yourself.
Yes.
We all have personality types. We all have what's authentic to us, what's not.
Yes.
Our Enneagram type is one way of looking at it. The astrology, our natal chart is another way of looking at it.
Right.
But that relationship with your child is critical.
Yes.
And that comes from at least two personality. Yourself and then your child's.
That's
correct. And then when you put those two together, you get a relationship.
Yes.
And if you don't understand what those two parts are, it's really hard to get the relationship.
Well, and the relationship can then become very confusing.
Yes.
In other words, sometimes when that happens, the child thinks they're the parent.
Yes. Or the parent is so overbearing with a child that is quieter and sensitive that there's no way to have a relationship
Correct.
because there's no trust.
Yes.
Knowing yourself is always the first step for real empathy.
Yes.
And it's difficult to know your child if you don't know yourself.
Correct.
And part of knowing yourself, and we've done a lot of shows about this, but part of knowing yourself is to understand the lies that you tell yourself about who you are.
Mhm.
And once you uncover those, then you can start to see how a child might be lying to themselves. So
Right.
that's another step. Okay.
Right.
Your job as parent is to help your child uncover and remove the blocks to their emotional story.
Correct.
You can't help them with that if you haven't done that for yourself.
Mhm.
It's huge.
Yes.
And you can help them do it for themselves.
Right.
And oh, by the way, it's so much better helping a child uncover the emotional blocks because they gravitate toward it naturally. It's instinctive.
Yeah.
If you start doing that, they'll say, yeah, I want some more. I want some more.
Right.
If you start telling them, do this, don't do that, don't say, you can't do this, you should do this, do your homework, don't be lazy, all those things, those are all programming. And
Yes.
the kid is going to rebel against that. It doesn't
At
work.
some point.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
And even if they listen,
Mhm.
they're going to be lost when they grow up
Yes.
because they
Yes.
don't know who they are.
Correct.
So here's an example. Instead of a timeout,
This is a good one.
this is a good one. Instead of a timeout or any other forms of punishment,
Correct.
taking away their iPad for a week or a day or whatever,
Yeah.
I suggest that you send your child to their room to clear their feelings.
Mhm.
So if they're sad, then take a time out. If they're angry, if they're having a temper tantrum, if they're not doing what they're supposed to,
Correct.
if they're being stubborn, if they're being passive aggressive,
Mhm.
send them to the room and say, well, you can come out when you've cleared those emotions.
And there's another small part to this. It's
Yeah.
actually huge. It's that the parent uses their own intuition to figure out if the child is doing what you ask them to do.
So if you send them to their room to clear their stubbornness, their
Mhm.
resistance, and they come out and say, I've done it. So what'd you come up with? Or, and you can sense.
By all means.
And by the way, you're in the beginning, your children will hate this, that you can understand, that when you most parents can
Right.
already, but when you have your intuition, that, oh, those emotions are still there. You can say, okay, well, I see you cleared some, but you need to clear some more.
Right.
And you can know that by doing it for yourself.
Yes.
So, but it's a great way of doing that. What I would suggest, you go to our website. If you've signed up for our free section, you can
Mhm.
have access to this. And in the free content, there's a picture of the processor. Print it out, download it, print it out, and put it on cardstock, fold it in thirds, and put it in the child's room.
Yeah.
And so whenever they have problems, and don't make it just for punishment, and we suggest doing a clearing game with your child.
Yes.
So when they have emotions as they grow up, oh, how are you feeling today? Oh, I'm feeling sad. Okay, well, let's put that sadness in the processor.
Correct.
Oh, I'm feeling I'm happy. Oh, that's great. Well, what are you happy about? Well, I'm happy about this, but I'm afraid of this. Well, let's put that fear over here.
Right. In other words, start teaching your children the differences between positive energies and negative energies.
And how to name them.
And how to name them. It's very, 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 first off, it's really powerful. That's the first thing. And I just want to go back to timeout for just 1 minute,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Send your child, okay, your child's having an attitude for whatever reason, temper tantrum. You send them to their room, take those negative energies, put them in the processor, and then they come back out and I'm done, that kind of thing. Well, okay, that's first off, that's not exactly the truth, but you don't have to say you're a liar. But what you can say is, well, wait a minute. Let's go get your card and let's put it over here and let's do this together. Let's see what we can find together. And what it will do is it will open up the ability for you and that child to communicate. And believe it or not, if you talk to people about their parents, one of the very first things that you'll find out is most of them will say, and by the way, on both sides, I can't communicate with my child. That is one of the biggest, I'm going to say, failings that programming does.
And that's negative energy.
And that's totally negative energy. And so if you teach your child how to communicate early on, and they don't have to learn how to communicate with everyone, but they do need to be able to communicate back and forth with you.
If you start removing the negative energy with someone, it naturally bonds you with them.
Yes.
And when we work with clients, we've been doing this for a long time, over 20 years. We tell them the truth. We tell them the truth in ways that nobody else can do.
Yes.
But because we've established, I don't want to say authority in the strict sense, but we have, because we keep clearing the negative energy with them.
Yes.
And it creates a bond between the two of us.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
It really is. It truly is. It's phenomenal, actually.
So if you have, let's say you have an adolescent, I know some people out there are thinking, okay, well, you said about little kids, but what if the kids, 12, 13, 14,
what are they called? Tweens.
20, yes.
Or 20.
And there comes home sullen and not communicate. Instead of demanding what's wrong, sit them down and start clearing the negative energy, whether they do it with you or not.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit here and I see that you're having a hard time. You don't have to talk to me about it, but I'm going to remove that hopeless energy that you have right now, or that depressed energy that you have right now, and any barriers that you are to communicating your feelings, or if you know their story already, you have a good guess of where those feelings are coming from.
Right.
Start clearing that, and either they'll talk or brighten up, or they'll go in the room and slam the door in your face. But then maybe tomorrow they'll brighten up and say, "Oh, that really helped. I appreciate it."
And like I said, this is about
I don't want to make they may not come out 2 days later and say, "Yeah, I appreciate that." That's probably asking
I'm
too much.
starving. You didn't feed me. So don't take that as literal word.
Can I have the car keys, or will you take me to the
Exactly. So yes. So should we do key points?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, Jason, what are the key points?
Parents always have to start by establishing authority, just like with a dog. The best thing you can do as a parent is to uncover your emotional story first, and then for your child.
Yes.
There are always two parts to your relationship with your child: self-knowledge for yourself, and then knowing them.
Correct.
They both have to be present. The ecosystem approach teaches you how to know yourself and then know your child, so you can help them discover who they are authentically.
I love that. So real fast, we're going to teach you how to do removing negative energy. And then in the next segment, we're actually going to remove negative energy.
Exactly.
So Jason?
So it's very simple. You don't have to sit in any sort of reverent posture. You can sit, stand, lay down. You can be walking. You can be doing something else, something like dishes, or something mindless, exercising.
Yes.
And so when we say "and to eliminate," in your mind's eye, in your imagination, gather up the emotions we say to eliminate. Anger, bitterness, hate, or veils and illusions. We do a lot of those. Barriers, we do a lot of those. Take those up and put those into the processor. Jacob's putting up a picture of the processor now if you're watching, and that's what it looks like.
And if you're not watching, use the garbage can. Whatever you put in the garbage can in your mind's eye, so to speak, use the garbage can, and whatever goes in there doesn't come out. So and then after that, we're going to activate life force energy, most powerful energy that any of us has access to. And we're going to pull it in through the top of our head and let it go to the tips of our toes. We're going to stop it there. We're going to ask it to turn around and continue to remove negative energy, but also we're going to ask it to go into the places where that negative energy has been stored in our body to start the beginnings of healing. So with that said, stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to help you begin to remove some of the negative energy that keeps you from learning at any age and being a great parent. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia. And in this segment, we're going to help you begin to remove some of the negative energy that keeps you from learning at any age and being a great parent. At any age. I love that. So, Jason, let's get started.
Here we go. I direct all my resources in all dimensions to eliminate the barriers, so I can see that life purpose is essential to all types of learning. Take a breath. Take those barriers, blow them into the processor.
Exactly. And we're going to shorten it up just a little bit and to eliminate the barriers so I can see that connection to life purpose helps many aspects of my life. Well, like safety in a mass shooting. Take a breath, nice and easy. And by the way, neither one of us wish that anyone that is listening to us today or at any time has to deal with a mass shooting. But unfortunately, it's a fact out there.
So life purpose also, and to eliminate the veils and illusions, so I can see that life purpose also deals with not only mass shootings, but avoiding COVID, freak accidents,
Yes.
helping to learn.
Yes.
You know, it's having good health.
Yes.
Life purpose is everywhere. It's the
Yes.
most important thing in our programming world. We just think about what our job is and
Yes.
what our ego wants us to do and how much money we want to make.
Right.
It doesn't talk about life purpose. So
take a breath, everybody, and blow it out. And to eliminate any intense feelings of worry and anxiety and stress that I have that interfere with learning. Take a breath.
and to eliminate any feelings of fear, hurt, and shame that blocks learning at all ages.
That's a good one. And to eliminate the barriers so I can see that like energies attract like, but comes from authentic emotions that are not programmed ones.
Yeah, it comes from authentic emotions, not programmed ones.
I got it. Take a breath, everybody.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that great parenting requires self-knowledge above all else.
Yes. Take a breath. And to eliminate any feelings of fear and terror that I have because it attracts other negative energies.
Just clear the fear and terror.
It's perfect. Yeah. Take a breath.
And to eliminate the barriers so I can see that raising good children is about uncovering who they are versus programming who they are.
Yes.
Take a breath.
And to eliminate any intense resentment I have because I always thought that you should program children, not uncover them. And you really need to think about that statement, but it's the truth. Take a breath.
And to eliminate any resistance I have to seeing that negative energy creates bad behavior. And it can be removed with clearing games.
Yes, I love it.
Oh my gosh.
And to eliminate the barriers so I can see that parenting requires establishing authority in the beginning. Everything else follows easily. Take a breath.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that knowing my life purpose and my child's purpose is essential for learning.
Yes, take a breath. And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that a good relationship with my child starts with self-knowledge and then the knowledge of my children and then those who...
And then how those two personalities interact.
Yes, very much. Take a breath.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that instead of timeouts and other punishments, have children remove their negative energy that causes the bad behavior.
In the first place.
The best training you can do in a lifetime.
Take a breath. Are we ready to activate Life Force?
Let's do it.
Here we go. Follow me. I direct all my resources in all dimensions to activate Life Force energy so that I can use Life Force energy, have it come in through the top of my head, go all the way to the tips of my toes, so I can use Life Force energy for clarity, awareness, and objectivity, so I can see not only what I need, but what my child needs and how to make that happen between us. Take a nice breath. Blow out any negative energies left over.
So, and to activate Life Force so I can have hope to supercharge learning for myself and my children by removing negative energy.
I love it. Take a breath. And to activate Life Force so I can trust that removing the energy blocks to my essence allows learning to actually happen. Take a breath.
And to activate life force so I can decide to focus my attention on removing negative energy for learning and for general development of my child.
Yes, take a breath. And to activate life force so I can be happy and healthy and creative, be objective, love myself, love my child, love being a parent, love being able to teach, but also being able to learn from my child every single day. Starting right now. Take a breath. Easy. And remember, use that life force to go in and be in the places in your body where negative energy has been. Blow out any negative energy left over. Jason, what are we going to talk about next week?
This is part 2 of this show we did last week, which is health, and it's upside down.
Yes.
And that goes back to that triangle that we talked about. And it starts to show you it's a metaphor.
Okay.
We've created a diagram that helps you understand what we're talking about. And frankly, in our programming world, it's hard to understand some of these concepts, but it changes everything. It's really groundbreaking. It'll change how you feel about health. And what's really neat about our show on Monday, which is Labor Day, and we already pre-recorded it, we're going to talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and how, if she had been using the ecosystem approach, she didn't want to die 4 months before the administration changes. She wanted to at least be alive till then.
Yes.
And how she could have made that happen if she was using the ecosystem approach. And it's a fascinating show. You'll have to watch it. It'll change what you think about health.
Okay.
And it's not for or against traditional medicine or alternative medicine.
Correct.
It's a whole different third perspective.
Correct. And Jason, what about did anything in the show today touch your heart?
Well, if you are thinking, oh my gosh, this is what I can do,
or there is something I can do
for my child in a way that I've never thought about this from this perspective before, and you probably get this little nudge that says, yeah, this is what I want. Yeah, this is coming from your essence.
Yes.
Saying, hey, do this.
Yes.
Go to our website right now, theecosystemapproach.org. Sign up for our free section. Every week you'll get the clearings written out. You'll see the processor right there, and it'll a little blurb about the show that I write, and then it's you start it. It's all for free. All you have to do is do those clearings every week. Listen to our show every week, because we tell you how to implement this this energy approach to life, and it's all free. You just do it right now. All we ask for is your email address. Okay.
And then, of course, Facebook.
The Facebook page, our address is theecosystemapproach.org. And so while you're there, our shows are there. They're in video. If you would like us, I like it when I get liked.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
We'll connect next week, Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Eastern Time. This is Transformation Talk Radio, and you're listening to the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia.
Remember, your ecosystem is the most important one in the world.
Thank you for listening to the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia. I'm Patricia. Tune in every week as we discuss practical ways to apply the ecosystem approach and develop your potential to live your life on your terms. For more information, visit our website at theecosystemapproach.org.